shocking new developments in the ongoing saga of Steward Healthcare, the private equity spinoff that has been strip mining and looting hospitals all across the world, bleeding them dry, extracting every penny they can, even while failing to pay their bills, laying off doctors and nurses, leading to substandard care that's resulted in patient deaths. Now we're learning that the company paid millions of dollars to a British intelligence company to conduct false flag attacks against the short sellers who were targeting the company, even going so far as to hire Christopher Steele, the author of the now infamous fake Trump-Russia dossier that was used to get a warrant from a FISA court to spy on Trump's 2016 campaign. What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special, and for the last few months I've been documenting the collapse of Steward Healthcare, both here on this channel and on my other channel, Doomers News Network. Now, Steward Healthcare filed for bankruptcy earlier this year, surprising nobody, but since that bankruptcy, we've been learning just how depraved and how unbelievably corrupt this company is, and just this week it's gotten even worse thanks to the excellent reporting from the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, an independent journalism organization based out of Europe. Now, a few months ago, they published this story: U.S. healthcare firm embroiled in Malta corruption scandal spent millions on private spies. Now, I'll put a link down below to this report, and this documents that even as patients were dying in Steward's hospitals, even as the company was going bankrupt, laying off doctors and nurses, closing hospitals, resulting in substandard care for patients, the company still managed to spend $7 million to hire a British private intelligence firm called Dossier to investigate and conduct false flag attacks against Fraser of Viceroy Research, the short-selling company that had been targeting Medical Properties Trust. Now, Steward Healthcare has been bankrupting their hospitals via sale-leaseback agreements with Medical Properties Trust, where Steward bought the hospitals and then immediately sold the buildings to Medical Properties Trust, and then they started renting them back, costing the hospitals tens of millions of dollars every year in rental costs, and those bloated rental costs have been slowly bankrupting all of Steward's hospitals, but not before Steward extracted hundreds of millions of dollars in the form of dividends, money that CEO Ralph de la Torre used to buy this $40 million yacht, among other things. Now, even though the hospitals were going bankrupt, we find out that Steward still had $7 million to conduct false flag attacks against Fraser and Viceroy Research, including following him around, taking pictures of him and his wife in their home. And again, thanks to OCCRP, hot off the press this week, we got this report: claims about short seller made in UK Parliament traced back to private intelligence firm hired by Steward Healthcare. Not only did Steward hire this private intelligence firm to investigate Fraser and Viceroy Research, but they also concocted a fake story about Fraser being a Russian agent, and they had a British politician read that story into the record in Parliament. You're not going to believe just how corrupt these people really are. In March of 2023, a member of Parliament publicly questioned whether a prominent short seller had ties to Russia. Leaked records suggest that the question was planted by Dossier International, a private intelligence firm conducting a smear campaign paid for by Steward Healthcare. The politician, member of Parliament Byrne, made the comments in March of 2023 as Texas-based Steward Healthcare and UK-based private intelligence firms were running a multi-million-dollar smear campaign against the healthcare company's critics. One of their targets was Fraser, the founder of Viceroy Research, a short-selling firm that investigates companies whose value it believes to be inflated and make money by betting that their share prices will drop. In early 2023, Viceroy had earned Steward's ire by publishing two damning reports into the healthcare operator and its biggest shareholder, Medical Properties Trust. Not long after that, Byrne stood up in Parliament and suggested Viceroy was working with the Kremlin to undermine British defense contractors. He also claimed that took frequent trips to Moscow. The comments, which furiously denied, led to a flurry of coverage in UK media before the story died down. Now, here's those comments that Byrne made in British Parliament in 2023, courtesy of OCCRP's YouTube channel.
Can we have a debate in government time on the activities of short-selling attack group Viceroy Research and its leader Fraser? I'm told they're working hand in glove with Boatman Capital, which launched the short-selling attack on Babcock International while it was overhauling our nuclear submarines. Mr. Pelling is not an infrequent visitor to Moscow, and is now targeting home REITs, which provides homelessness services, including services to homeless veterans. We must make sure that short-selling groups are not another weapon in Putin's arsenal, and so where there are links between short-selling attack groups and the Kremlin, we need to know.
Now, besides rather hilariously mispronouncing Fraser Perring as Fraser Pelling, we're now learning a sinister twist in this story. Leaked communications obtained by OCCRP suggest Byrne's comments were devised as part of a wider false flag campaign against Perring that the London-based private intelligence firm Audir International was engineering on Steward's behalf. OCCRP reported in July that Audir had been targeting Perring with surveillance and disinformation, following the businessman with private spies and posting crude content about him on Twitter. And this is where the story takes an even more ironic twist. Leaked communications suggest that the parliamentarian's comments were fed to him by an intermediary who did appear to receive payment from Audir for his role in the affair. The communications show that ex-MI6 intelligence officer Christopher Steele, the author of the controversial Trump-Russia Dossier, engaged in discussions with Audir on March 2nd, 2023, about a written question Byrne should ask in Parliament about Viceroy. Audir provided the text of a proposed question on Viceroy to Steele, who later confirmed he had sent the question to Byrne with minor changes. Members of Parliament can submit written questions asking for information about the work of government departments, which are publicly recorded and answered. Byrne submitted a written question for the Treasury about the regulation of short sellers 2 weeks before he made his oral comments in Parliament. The written question was nearly identical to the one suggested by Audir, though it didn't mention Viceroy directly. Bank transaction records show that Steele received 29,000 British pounds from Audir in April of 2023, and then this is where it gets kind of hilarious. There is no indication Steele violated any laws, and he didn't respond to requests for comments. And apparently there is nothing illegal about any of this, thanks to parliamentary privilege in the UK. You see, everything said by UK MPs in the Parliament is protected by parliamentary privilege, including demonstrably false attacks, false flag allegations made by former spies and corrupt healthcare companies that are killing patients while bleeding their hospitals dry. When he reached out to police, Perring was told that Byrne's comments were covered by this immunity and that no crime had occurred. Silly me thinking here that the point of laws is to protect people from criminals, and here are the laws in the UK being used to protect the criminals from the people. Perring said some of his bank accounts had been frozen in the wake of Byrne's parliamentary comments, while other banks had to rerun their compliance and background checks. They froze the guy's assets over this, and apparently it's totally legal what they did. I had to explain that I was not a Russian agent or a spy, Perring told the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. And I was just talking to my friend Travis over at Real Estate Mindset in a video we did over at his channels yesterday about how, God willing, we might see Ralph De La Torre in handcuffs someday soon. We got this one just last night. U.S. Senate votes to hold Steward Healthcare CEO Ralph De La Torre in contempt. Senators unanimously passed a resolution to hold Ralph De La Torre, the CEO of troubled hospital operator Steward Healthcare, in criminal contempt of Congress on Wednesday. And guys, I can't help but notice that word unanimously in there in the context of the United States Senate, a notoriously divided organization that can't agree on what time it is or what to have for dinner, and yet they are unanimous in finding this dirtbag, the CEO of Steward Healthcare, in contempt. De La Torre failed to appear at a hearing where he was subpoenaed to testify on Capitol Hill earlier this month, and the Senate resolution refers the matter to the Department of Justice for prosecution. It marks the first time since 1971 that the Senate has held someone in criminal contempt. Now, typically I would wrap up my videos with a segment called Long Story Short, where I try to distill everything down into a couple of brief comments that summarize the whole video. But in this case, there is so much crime and dirtbaggery going on at Steward Healthcare, there is really no way to make this long story short. But the most recent developments can be summarized to say these dirtbags who have been bankrupting hospitals, laying off doctors and nurses, all while patients died, still managed to spend $7 million to hire private spies to attack the short sellers who were chasing this company, even going so far as to hire Christopher Steele, the author of the fake Russia collusion dossier, in order to create a false flag attack against Fraser, claiming he was a Russian agent, a weapon in Putin's arsenal. And of course, corrupt British politicians are more than happy to go along with it as long as the price is right. And that's interesting because we're talking about the UK, where people are being arrested right now for insensitive tweets that hurt people in the feels. And yet a politician from the Labour Party can get up in front of Parliament and spout off nonsense about somebody being a Russian agent based on totally manufactured BS paid for by the same corrupt officials who are bankrupting hospitals all over the world. And now Ralph de la Torre may be heading to prison because the U.S. Senate just unanimously agreed to find him in contempt. The only thing Congress has ever unanimously agreed upon is spending more money and giving themselves a raise. This story just keeps getting wilder and wilder, and we're not done yet, guys. But God willing, we will be seeing this POS, Ralph de la Torre, in handcuffs someday soon, and we'll see the guys in windbreakers boarding his yacht as they seize it, and I look forward to covering that one. That's something I was just talking about yesterday with my buddy Travis in this video over at Real Estate Mindset. For you guys watching on Twitter, I'll put a link down below here to that one. You want to check that out. We're talking all about layoffs in the medical industry, even though these corrupt healthcare companies are bankrupting their hospitals with these sale-leaseback agreements and even spending tens of millions of dollars to sponsor golf tournaments. Check out that video. You're not going to want to miss it. And tell them nobody sent you. And until next time, live small and dream big.